magnolia, the eucalyptus, the palm. What do all of these iconic California trees have in common? None of them are from California. But there are those that are. Walnuts, laurels, sycamores, and of course, the crown prince of all California trees, the mighty oak. Oak trees have been living in our fair land for a very, very long time. Long enough, in fact, that we should probably call it their fair land, because many of the oaks you and I see every day have been here longer than us, or the state of California, or even the United States of America. The truth is, oaks were here long before the first human beings ever set foot in North America. Acorns are incredibly nutritious. That is, if you can get past the tannins and all the fiber, which the Tongva and the Chumash people did by pounding them in stone mortars and then consuming them in the form of a wet, cold mush. But oaks were so essential to tribal life that several indigenous communities placed them at the center of their creation myths. There are also some pretty famous oaks hanging out with us here in Southern California, with some amazing stories to tell. This ancient beauty woke up one morning in 1874 to find itself sitting right in the middle of Orange Grove Boulevard in Pasadena, after city planner Calvin Fletcher decided quite intentionally to make it a centerpiece of the community. Of course, despite Pasadena's good intentions, the street ultimately proved to be too much for the oak, and in 1911, the giant was removed from the spot where it had stood for centuries before Mr. Fletcher or the city of Pasadena ever existed. Another Pasadena oak was called the Cathedral Oak because legend has it that a priest named Father Crespi chose it on an Easter Sunday morning in 1770 to be the site of California's first Catholic Easter Mass. And to its dying day, it still bore the scar of a cross that General Portola himself had carved into its trunk. Over in Encino, a word which, by the way, means oak, was the Lang Oak on Louise Street. When heavy El Nino rains finally brought it down in 1996, we discovered that it was just over 1,000 years old, which means it was a sapling when the Mayan Empire was crumbling and Vikings were sacking North English villages. And in Calabasas grew an oak that the locals called the Hanging Tree, for having witnessed more of its share of Wild West shenanigans. It got sandwiched in between a store and a gas station, and eventually it died from gas leaking into the soil. But even in death, it had one more indignity to suffer when, in 1965, the Rocketdyne Corporation craned it out of the way because they were hauling a Saturn V rocket prototype along Calabasas Road to their testing facilities in the Simi Hills. This big fella behind me first popped out of the ground right about the time the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock. Needless to say, he has seen a lot. For well over 300 years, he and his family have been the masters of this meadow, providing shelter and sustenance to countless cohorts, from indigenous peoples to Spanish explorers to Catholic missionaries, cattle ranchers, and cowboys. And after all of that, it has ended up a landscaping feature in somebody's backyard. As for this project, the whole backyard is changing, but I consider myself blessed to have this amazing creature as my starting point for design. Now, we've got a couple of concerns here. There's a beehive in this branch, which means a portion of it has to be hollow, and therefore it's structurally weakened. So we're going to figure out if we can support it better. Maybe a post and a saddle right under here to take a little load off. We also have to be careful where we trench back here, because a tree this size has an essential root system that extends a lot further than just the canopy. And just like older people, older trees have a tougher time recovering from physical trauma. Much more than younger ones do, at least. So despite their indispensable role to the environment, their long lives, their colorful history, and the fact that, like the buffalo, when the Europeans arrived, we nearly wiped them all out, people still complain about what a hassle it is that California has decided to protect these trees. I mean, really, who cares that it's an ancient creature of indescribable beauty? It's dropping acorns all over my patio. The nerve! So whether you're an oak tree lover or a leaver, what you need to know is over the past few years, the state of California has finally decided to get serious about protecting and preserving them. Most municipalities impose cripplingly stiff fines for cutting one down without the proper permits and approvals. Even trimming an established oak tree, which by the way usually means a trunk 4 inches in diameter or larger or a height of 4 feet or taller, is illegal in most cities without first getting approval. So yes, even if, like this one, it's not growing on your property, in 1994, California tree law was significantly changed when a California appeals court held that a neighbor does not have the absolute right to cut the encroaching roots and branches of any tree just because they cross over their property line. So remember, check with your city before you mess with an oak tree 4 inches or more in diameter and more than 4 feet tall. And in some cities, that applies to walnuts, sycamores, and laurel trees too. So the moral of the story is respect your project, respect your budget by respecting these trees. Check with your local municipality before you act, and check sooner than later, because sometimes getting all the necessary approvals is a painfully slow process. And if you see anything about the tree that causes you concern, get a certified arborist to come out and give it an examination. Most of all, take the high road in your design. Get creative and work with these beauties and not against them. They really are amazing reminders of everything that is possible in this life. From the smallest of beginnings grows the mighty oak. You can join the conversation every day with us at Home with Dean on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, and find all of our House Whisperer home movies and all of our shows on the free iHeartRadio app and on the KFI website at kfiam640.com, keyword home. And of course, be sure to tune in live, KFI AM 640, every Sunday from 9 to 11. I'll see you then.